Okay, let's move on to topic three. Can Saudi Arabia become a home for car makers? The kingdom is in talks with several car makers about manufacturing within the kingdom's borders, according to Khalid Al Falih, who's Saudi Arabia's Minister of Investment. Al Falih said, quote, a car manufacturer will be announced before year end, and following that, there will be another one or two car manufacturers, and they will be cars of the future, he said. Of course, one's first thought turns to Lucid Motors, the Tesla rival that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. But this is just one piece of a plan to attract FDI into the kingdom, which Al Falih said was going well. According to Al Falih, in the first half of 2021, the kingdom has already exceeded FDI targets for this year. Richard, can Saudi Arabia become a home for car makers?
That's a good question. They really want to. This has been a primary goal for a long time. In 2010, they introduced Ghazal 1, which was really the brainchild of some researchers in King Saud University. And you'll like this. It was designed to be built on a Mercedes G-Wagon frame.
That is awesome. Did they end up building that?
No. As far as I know, they didn't end up building it. So there's a lot of reasons why they're interested. So this sector comes under the National Industrial Development and Logistics Program, which is tasked underneath the Vision 2030 to develop the manufacturing section. They're looking primarily at industry, mining, energy, and logistics. Developing an automaking ecosystem has always been of great interest for lots of reasons, and there's three that they point to. One is there's a significant market in Saudi Arabia for vehicles. This year they'll sell close to 400,000 vehicles. Actually, 2020, 2019 was more like 460,000. But the car sales grow at about 9% annually. I mean, actually 2020 was a blip. You've got Saudi Arabia sat right in the middle of a GCC market, which is 100 million. 1 million cars purchased annually. And then if you go a little farther afield, you've got the MENA market, which is 400 million, consumers. So they look at it and go, we have a market here, which is significant, and we have access to it because certainly within the GCC, there's not trade barriers to it. So two, the auto industry is very labor intensive. It has a significant multiplier effect in terms of downstream sectors. So, you put in an assembly line, you have to deal with contractors and suppliers that are, metals, plastic, and chemicals. So it's a great jobs creator. And they have, SABIC has some experience. It's worked with Volkswagen and Hyundai and Mitsubishi in terms of chemicals and plastics that are part of a auto manufacturing supply chain. Saudi Arabia already has some capability in terms of spare parts because it has so many vehicles. So, I mean, you've got some ecosystem there for replacement parts like radiators, batteries, and these sorts of things. So it's one, there's a market. Two, it's a really good industry for creating jobs. And three, Saudis spend a lot of money on cars. 7 to 8% of their total imports worth around $8 billion are spent on vehicles. These are coming from, these are imported. So, and I think South Korea has about a quarter of that. The US has a little less than a quarter. Japan has not quite 20%. It's the fifth largest export market for US passenger vehicles and light trucks, and it's the largest in the Middle East. So you've got these three things. You've got a market, you've got an industry that would create jobs for your citizens. And if you could reduce these imports, it would help your trade balance. So a lot of good things. The other interesting thing is Saudi Arabia is a top 20 country in the world in terms of automobile purchase demand. It's the only one of that 20 without local or regional production facilities. So Saudi Arabia looks at this and goes, wow, there's an opportunity. Now, why hasn't happened? Let me go back. Part of the so in Saudi Arabia has already allocated land for a vehicle assembly plant. This was done in April 29. There is a Saudi national automobile manufacturing company, and it's in partnership with the South Korean company SsangYong. And they think they can manage a production volume of somewhere between 100 and 150,000 vehicles by 2026. So the want is there. The reason is there. What are the obstacles? I mentioned the Gazelle in 2010. They asked Toyota to do a feasibility study in 2017, which they did. Toyota came back and said, look, the huge deal is labor competitiveness. So we have to understand that if we're going to put in a manufacturing plant here, it's got to compete with the efficiency and the labor and the skills elsewhere, and they have plants all over the world. So they said, high labor costs, small domestic market, and lack of local supplies. Saudis also ran this route with Tata and Nissan, neither of which came to anything. So they've got to figure out how to overcome this obstacle. Maybe, and one of the things the Toyota feasibility study said, look, one way to do this happen is the incentives have to be just ridiculously high, close to 50% for us to make it, for it to be feasible financially. And maybe that's what the Saudis do. And this is it'd be a lost leader in order to create jobs and to bring this technology into the country. You bring up an interesting, I should add, by the way, that Saudi does have some production in terms of trucks. Isuzu and Volvo have a presence, and they've been there for a while, but those are mostly assembly. So local content's under 50%, well under 50%. So it's not really a traditional manufacturing process or ecosystem like they'd want to create. One thing, and you sort of alluded to it, and when you quoted Khalid Al Falih, is maybe they can bypass an internal combustion engine model entirely and go straight to EVs. One of the advantages of being in an emerging market in a developing country is you may not have legacy systems that you have to either incorporate or revise or revamp or just abandon. So, some of these fourth industrial revolution technologies that coming to Saudi Arabia where they have nothing that is going to replace, so you can adopt them wholly and quickly. So maybe what Khalid Al Falih was alluding to is we're going to go straight to an EV plant, an EV manufacturing, auto electric vehicle manufacturing, process, which would be fascinating and would be that'd be really intriguing. But I guess all that to say is Saudi Arabia has recognized this as a huge opportunity to increase its industrial base and create jobs and transfer technology and move it into a significant ecosystem that would provide all sorts of trade advantages, but they haven't been able to do it. And part of that is, they've got, it's like a lot of things with Saudi Arabia in terms of what they want to do. They can move quickly on a number of things. One thing they can't move quickly on is educating a generation of young Saudis that are ready to take on these jobs. And, education obviously underpins so many things you want to do economically. And that's what's missing when a Toyota or a Tata or Nissan looks at this. All right, who are we going to hire to operate this efficiently and make money? Everybody wants to make money. So I love that he's talking about it. I love that it's come through. It's a big priority. It would be awesome if they could make it happen. It would be really interesting if they just said, look, we're going to try this with EVs. But as I said, this has been something they've been hunting for a long time. Maybe they'll catch it this time.
We talk a lot about on this podcast about going beyond the headlines, going beyond the story at its face and diving deeper. And that answer, Richard, is why we're doing this podcast, because that was fascinating. I didn't know almost everything that you said. And that's just That's incredible. You must have a team of writers over there, and I'm not one of them. So, but that
No,
was really good, and that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, that's imagine if their first car that they are manufacturing at scale was an electric vehicle. I mean, it's almost like kind of hard to imagine. But
boy, that'd
great
be
answer.
a good PR. That'd be PR. By the way, I think I had you a G-Wagon.
Yeah, as soon as you said G-Wagon, I was like, this is the answer. I love this. No, I mean that's amazing, and I guess I was going to ask a follow-up question if I may, but and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but I understand that Lucid is owned, a majority stake in Lucid is owned by the Public Investment Fund. Al Falih said that Lucid might be the car that they end up manufacturing there, but it would be up to the board of Lucid Motors Inc. Doesn't the PIF control the board? Or I mean, I don't know if we know that, but it just seems like the PIF would be like, yeah, we're going to be doing this in next year because we now own more than 50% of the company. Do you have any insight on that?
I think they're the majority shareholder.
Okay.
But it's the same question, as you have the PIF whose responsibility is to get returns on investments, and if putting a Lucid plant in Saudi Arabia is not a smart investment choice,
mm-hmm.
then the responsible thing is to not do it. And this is the challenge they run into, and this is, as I said, this is why Tata, Nissan, and Toyota all go. They don't say no, because these are important markets, but they draw up any number of obstacles as to why it's not economically in their interest. And that's the whole point of this is, Saudi Arabia wants to, attract FDI and investment, but these people, it has to be done so these people make money. Now, like I said, maybe they just want to be a loss leader and just, incent the heck out of this and to bring somebody in there and do it. But a better deal would be that you could do it in a reasonably attractive structure that's also attractive to the manufacturer, whoever wants to come in. But so again, that dynamic with PIF as a major shareholder in Lucid, they on both sides of the coin, and maybe they decide that it's better for the country to bring Lucid in and just give them tremendous incentives and underwrite them at 50%, and then try and make money well into the future. Maybe they decide that's not a good financial. It's not a responsibly financial thing to do in terms of their PIF investment portfolio. Hard to know. Like I said, Saudi Arabia has been sniffing around this for a long time, and they recognize how important it is. They haven't been able to make it happen. And Khalid Al Falih, I think it's, he's a compelling guy. Saudi Arabia's in a different place. Maybe this is the time they get it done.
Yeah, we talked a little bit earlier about word associations, Saudi Arabia fiscal responsibility, maybe not so much, but Saudi Arabia G-Wagon is something that I think a lot of people might say. Great answer, Richard. Great intel there. Let's wrap it up with that. Again, if you can follow us on anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can see our beautiful faces on YouTube. If you want to watch either the full episode or in segments there, give us a follow there. We're building our audience. We're getting a ton of awesome feedback. So keep that rolling. And Richard, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you.